The crash echoed through the cul-de-sac like a gunshot, scattering sparrows from the oak trees. Metal clanged against concrete, followed by a sickening thud and a muffled groan. I didn't need to check my security feed to know what had happened, but I flicked it on anyway. There, sprawled across the grass by my fence, was Martin Hayes, clutching his ankle, his face twisted in agony. The ladder he'd been perched on lay toppled beside him, a crumpled testament to his nosy ambition. Just minutes earlier, he'd been teetering at the top, craning his neck over my 8-foot privacy fence, pen scribbling furiously on a clipboard as he hunted for some imagined violation. As president of our Homeowners Association, Martin saw himself as the neighborhood's self-appointed sheriff, sniffing out infractions like a bloodhound. What he didn't know was that I'd been watching every move he made. I'm not just any homeowner. I'm the guy who built the security system for this entire community. My name's Ethan Carter, and for 15 years, I've worked in cybersecurity, designing surveillance networks for everyone from mom-and-pop shops to government facilities. When my wife, Lily, and we moved to Willow Creek Estates 3 years ago, we fell in love with its quiet, charm-spacious lots, towering trees, and just enough distance between houses to feel like you could breathe. The neighborhood had a fancy gate and guardhouse, but the tech behind it was a clunky relic. At my third HOA meeting, I offered to overhaul the system at a steep discount. 6 months later, Willow Creek had one of the slickest residential security setups in the county. Our house sits at the end of the cul-de-sac, backing up to a protected woodland. I designed our yard for privacy tall fences, clever landscaping, and a personal security system that syncs with the neighborhoods while keeping our business our own. My backyard workshop, where I tinker with cutting-edge prototypes, is my sanctuary. It's not some eyesore, and it's fully HOA compliant, but I keep it private. Most neighbors respect that. Martin Hayes, though, was the exception. Martin, a wiry guy in his mid-60s with slicked-back silver hair and a wardrobe of pressed khakis, treated the HOA rulebook like holy scripture. To him, a mailbox painted the wrong shade or a lawn edged a smidge too far was a personal affront. While the rest of the board was reasonable, Martin was a one-man crusade, patrolling the streets with a zeal that made folks whisper less-than-kind nicknames behind his back. We kept things CIVYL, if chilly, until 2 months ago when the letters started. The first was a vague jab about unauthorized structures on my property. I called the HOA office, and the admin sounded as confused as I was, muttering that Martin had filed it himself. I sent a polite reply, pointing out that all my renovations were approved, and asked for specifics. A week later, another letter landed, this time hinting at unusual active VY tie in my backyard. No details, just cryptic accusations. I'm not hiding anything, but my work demands discretion. My workshop is where I test surveillance tech for high-profile clients, nothing illegal, just sensitive. After a third letter, I'd had enough. I set up a meeting with Martin at the community center, spreading out my permits and plans like a poker player laying down a winning hand. I explained my work in broad strokes, stressed everything was above board, and asked what exactly he thought I was doing wrong. Martin's lips thinned as he scanned the documents, clearly annoyed to find no cracks in my armor. "Well, Mr. Carter," he said, tapping his manicured nails, "I've had reports of odd goings-on." He dodged when I pressed for names, insisting it was his duty to investigate. I pointed out that my fence height was approved due to the woodland preserve and that satellite images he mentioned could be outdated. He gave a tight smile and said he'd keep watching. That's when things got weird. Martin started strolling past my house daily, squinting at my property like a detective on a stakeout. Neighbors said he was asking about my schedule, my work, even if they'd seen anything suspicious. My cameras caught him snapping photos of my house, once even trying to peek through a fence gap, jumping back when he spotted me at the kitchen window. It hit a new low when he called an emergency inspection of all backyard structures, claiming storm damage concerns despite months of clear weather. I refused him access to my yard, citing my sensitive prototypes, and offered a licensed inspector's report instead. Perfectly within my rights, but Martin took it like a personal insult. At the next HOA meeting, he pushed a rule change to let the board barge into any property with commercial equipment or non-standard structures. It was clearly aimed at me. Thankfully, Saner board members questioned its legality, and the motion was shelved. Martin's face turned beet red as his plan fizzled, and he avoided my gaze for the rest of the night. 2 days later, my phone pinged with a security alert. I was in my home office, wrapping up a client proposal, when I pulled up the feed. My jaw dropped. A ladder was inching above my fence, followed by Martin's face, his eyes gleaming with determination. He balanced at the top, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, snapping pictures of my workshop. The door was open. I'd been testing a new motion sensor that morningy VY-ing him a partial VYEW inside. He was so focused he didn't notice the cameras swiveling to track him or the red sensor lights blinking. For a split second, I thought about storming out to confront him, but curiosity held me back. How far would this guy go? I zoomed in, capturing crystal clear footage, timestamps, and GPS data locked in. Martin was about to learn a hard lesson about messing with a security expert. The irony wasn't lost on me. I've spent my career building systems to stop exactly this kind of invasion. My client celebrities dodging paparazzi, companies guarding trade, secrets trust me to balance security with privacy. Martin, who'd benefited from my upgrades to the neighborhood system, was now spitting in the face of those principles. I remembered our first meeting at a welcome event 3 years ago. He'd pumped my hand, gushing about how a security expert was a boon for the community. I thought his enthusiasm was genuine. Now I saw it for what it was, a thirst for control. When I pitched the HOA security overhaul, Martin fixated on the camera zoom, asking about facial recognition and targeting specific homes. I'd explained the privacy safeguards cameras on common areas only, encrypted data, 30-day purge cycles. The board loved it. Martin seemed disappointed. Then, on my monitor, the scene unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck. Martin leaned further, stretching for a better shot. The ladder, poorly braced, wobbled. His face shifted from focus to panic as it tilted. He flailed, dropping his clipboard, grabbing for the fence, but the smooth VY-NYL offered no grip. Down he went, phone still in hand, crashing onto the grass with the ladder clattering beside him. It wasn't a long fall, maybe 7 feet, but he landed hard. I switched to a ground-level camera. Martin grimaced, trying to stand, only to collapse, clutching his ankle. No blood, no OBVYS breaks, but he was hurting. He sat for a moment, rubbing his leg, then hobbled upright, leaning against the fence, his face a mix of pain and humiliation. Here's where it gets juicier. That strip of land where he fell, it's not mine or his, it's a conservation easement, protected by the HOA's own rules. Martin had trespassed twice, once by spying into my yard, and again by setting up his ladder on land, where even a footprint could mean hefty fines. My cameras caught it all, including crushed native plants the HOA's bylaws swore to protect. The man who'd slapped neighbors with citations for minor infractions had just committed a major one. As he limped away, Leah VYing the ladder behind, I felt a flicker of concern. I didn't want him hurt, but this wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate violation after I'd proven my compliance. My concern hardened into resolve. This was my chance to turn the tables. I spent an hour compiling footage, multiple angles, timestamps, even thermal imaging from a client project. The system had flagged Martin's BHA VUI weeks earlier, logging his repeated prowls by my fence. I'd ignored it, thinking he was just overzealous. Now it painted a damning picture of harassment. One clip even showed him testing my side gates latch, a move that crossed into potential crime. I drafted a calm email to the HOA board, copying the property manager. I'm reporting a security incident. The attached VY-DAO shows Association President Martin Hayes trespassing by climbing my fence, followed by an accident. I'm concerned about privacy and liability. I attached the file and hit send. Within 30 minutes, Sarah Thompson, the board's VYC president, called, her voice tight with shock. "We had no idea Martin was doing this," she said. "This is way outside protocol. We're calling an emergency meeting." The meeting was set for the next evening at the community center. I arrived early, laptop ready. As board members trickled in, their faces grim. Martin limped and laughed, trying to project authority, but his expression faltered when he saw me hooking up to the projector. Sarah opened the meeting, explaining we were addressing a serious trespassing issue. She nodded to me. "Thank you for meeting on short notice," I began, voice steady. "Yesterday, at 2:15 p.m., my security system detected unauthorized access at my rear fence. I'll let the footage speak for itself." The room went silent as the VY Deo played. Martin sneaking up with his ladder, placing it carefully, climbing to snap photos, his notepad scrawled with unauthorized structure. The thermal VYEW drew gasps, showing his heat signature skulking along the fence. Then came the fall, his desperate grab, the ladder slide, his awkward tumble. The audio caught his grunt and a muttered curse as he tested his ankle. The footage ended with him fleeing, Leah VYing the ladder on protected land. I switched to documents. As most of you know, I designed our security system. My work requires privacy, but everything on my property is approved. I showed permits and inspections. This isn't just about my privacy. Martin injured himself trespassing. A worse fall could have meant lawsuits for me and the HOA. Martin squirmed, then spoke, his voice strained. "This is overblown. I was investigating reports of commercial acti VY tie." Sarah cut him off. "Martin, you trespassed. You should have filed a formal complaint, not climbed a fence." Another board member, Tom Reed, frowned. "This looks like targeted surveillance. Are you doing this to other homes?" Martin stammered about risk-based enforcement, but the room was turning. A neighbor, Leasing Wind, stood. "Last month, Martin entered my backyard to check my irrigation, claiming my hose was a violation. I let it go, but now I'm wondering." Others chimed in stories of Martin measuring fences, photographing homes, issuing petty citations. A pattern emerged. Overreach normalized under his watch. I stayed quiet, letting the frustration boil. When Sarah asked if I'd sue, I shook my head. I'm not here for punishment. As the security guy, I want clear rules that protect privacy and standards. I showed proposed inspection, changes advance notice, 2 board members present, no unauthorized photos. The board leaned in, even Martin falling silent. After 2 hours, they acted, a formal reprimand for Martin, mandatory training, adoption of my protocols, and in a 6-1 vote, his removal as president. Sarah took over as interim. As we packed up, she pulled me aside. "We should have caught this sooner. Your response was classy." I smiled. "I build systems to protect people, not just property. That includes their dignity." She mentioned the board wanted my input on upgrading the entrance cameras. I agreed to propose something, keeping it above board. The next week, Willow Creek felt lighter. Sarah sent a community email, pledging fair enforcement and privacy, with the new protocols attached. Martin, still a board member but sidelined, avoided my street. One evening, as I re-VYE'd footage my system pinged, Martin hobbled past my house, eyes down, his braced ankle a reminder. I sipped my coffee and switched to the Clubhouse feed, where I'd installed new cameras that blurred faces and plates unless flagged a balance of safety and privacy. The board had just signed my contract for a full security overhaul, inspired by the very incident Martin triggered. His obsession with my backyard had backfired, VYing the way for a system that protected everyone without prying. I step onto my porch, the air sweet with jasmine. Neighbors chatted across the street, unburdened by petty citations. My cameras hummed quietly, present but discreet. Thanks to Martin's overreach, I turned a violation into a VY-tory for the whole community. So what do you think? Was Martin just a stickler for rules gone too far? Or was he abusing his power? Should I have confronted him directly instead of going to the board? And what about the HOA? Do these groups do more harm than good? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're team privacy, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood tales.